Opulence, elegance, exclusivity, class. These are what make someone like me a natural fit for a brand like Gucci.
What are you wearing?
Yeah, that's a fake.
What?
Those are bees, Shervin.
Oh, a Gucci is what I meant.
Let's just do the video.
You know what is real, actually, is this 1984 Cadillac Seville by Gucci, and I'll bet most people don't know the whole story behind it.
Nice save. Hi guys, welcome back to the Petersen Automotive Museum's YouTube channel. I'm Bee.
I'm Jonee.
And I'm Shervin.
Today we're going to tell you the story about how the Cadillac Seville went from a contemporary luxury car to a bustleback neoclassic to a designer item to a game show prize.
How about I start us off, since, my parents actually owned a Seville when I was a kid.
Well, my parents owned a Camry.
Let's let him do it.
Thanks, guys. Since its founding, Cadillac has been known as the standard of the world. It was GM's flagship division, and it defined American luxury: bigger, softer, flashier. And the idea that its dominance could ever be seriously challenged would have drawn little more than a chuckle inside Detroit for much of the 20th century. By the mid-1970s, though, everything was changing. The oil crisis was in full swing, gas prices were soaring, and buyers started walking into showrooms for Mercedes-Benz and other European brands. These cars were refined and more technologically advanced. They weren't land yachts. They were precise, efficient, and engineered to a standard that Cadillac in the 1970s was struggling to match. Cadillac's dominance was no longer guaranteed, and research revealed a harsh truth. Customers felt that quality had slipped at Cadillac. They still wanted luxury, but they also wanted craftsmanship, timeless style, and something that didn't have the turning radius of the Titanic. Cadillac needed an answer, and it responded with the internationally sized Seville, which was introduced in mid-1975 as a 1976 model. So though this car was compact by Cadillac standards, it was still roomy and comfortable. It was based on GM's X-Body platform, which had the same basic architecture underpinning the Chevrolet Nova. And that presented a serious problem. A prestigious Cadillac couldn't beat a Nova in a fancy suit. Thankfully, when developing the first generation Seville, GM's design and engineering teams were given total creative freedom, and they re-engineered the X platform enough so that the final product actually was given the K designation, since it ended up sharing few components with the X-Body. Under the hood was a fuel-injected 350 cubic inch V8 sourced from Oldsmobile, which was a technological leap, or at least step forward for Cadillac. A diesel V8 would also later be offered. Appearance-wise, it offered manageable size, clean styling, and a more contemporary feel. Designer Bill Mitchell actually called its look sheer, which meant it was crisp, uncluttered, with subtle curves and a formal roofline. It was restrained, modern, and very un-Cadillac in the best possible way. It was forward-looking, something that hadn't been associated with the brand in almost a decade, and it proved Cadillac could adapt. It also cost over $12,000, which made it the most expensive American car on the market from a major manufacturer. Despite that, though, the Seville was a hit. Although, ironically, it actually didn't fully capture the young import buyers Cadillac had targeted. So when it came time for the second generation, Mitchell, who was nearing retirement after 42 years at GM, took a dramatic turn. Rumor had it Bill Mitchell wanted one final statement piece, and designer Wayne Cady was tasked with bringing his vision to life. The rear-wheel drive platform used by the first generation Seville was being discontinued, so Cadillac moved the new 1980 Seville to the downsized front-wheel drive E platform shared with the Eldorado. But the real story was the styling. Designer Bill Mitchell adored pre-war coach-built luxury, particularly Hooper-bodied Rolls-Royces. He wanted sweeping C-pillars and a dramatic bustleback trunk, just like those on the Rolls-Royces from coach builder Hooper. So the result was a bold, neoclassical, and impossible-to-ignore car. It was consistent with a period within the late Malaise era I like to call the Brome Age. At the time, with the economy flagging and the populace pessimistic about its future, Americans became overwhelmed with a sense of idealized nostalgia, a longing for, quote, simpler times. Shows like Happy Days were popular, people started listening to the Beach Boys again, and American car styling began looking backwards. Car companies also covered up a multitude of sins with a veneer of, again, quote, luxury. People either loved it or hated it, and this was especially true with the bustleback Seville. To ensure the car created buzz, Cadillac made a controversial move. The 5.7-liter Oldsmobile diesel V8 was standard equipment in states not named California, with a gasoline V8 optional. Unfortunately, diesel reliability issues and slipping quality control cooled early enthusiasm for the car. In 1981 came the ambitious but infamous V864 engine. It featured a cylinder deactivation system designed to improve fuel economy by running on 6 or 4 cylinders when less power was needed. Was it visionary? Absolutely. Was it ready for prime time? Not quite. The computer that controlled the system was not quick enough to handle the rapid processing required for cylinder deactivation. And this caused serious drivability issues, including hesitation, stalling, shaking, and much knocking and pinging from the motor. Also, due to the throttle body injection design, the fuel would pool on top of the intake valves during longer periods of steady-state cruising, only to dump back into the cylinder when they eventually opened up again. It was a mess, and most owners had this cylinder deactivation system disabled, making the car a regular V8. My parents actually owned an 864 Seville, and while I thought it was the classiest car on the road, I'll never forget the string of curses my mom regularly threw at it when driving the thing. In 1983, Cadillac then introduced the HD 4100 V8, which was another notorious engine that had a host of reliability challenges. Now, these two experimental power plants gave the Seville a much less than stellar reputation. Still, the car made a statement. It may have been a controversial one, but it was definitely a statement. It could be had with two-tone paint and a faux cabriolet vinyl top, which amplified the drama. Inside, buyers could choose plush velour or supple leather, every imaginable power assist, and by 1983, a high-end Delco Bose stereo system. And while the reliability issues of the various diesel and gas-powered engines hurt sales somewhat, the final 2 years of the second-generation Seville saw buyers return pretty enthusiastically for reasons I don't really have an explanation for, except that while Cadillac had originally hoped to attract younger buyers, the second-generation Seville appealed quite strongly to the traditional luxury audience Cadillac was known for. And this was a large market. Cadillac's rivals also noticed. Lincoln adapted the bustleback look for the 1983 Continental, and Chrysler revived the Imperial in 1981 with similar styling cues. For a few years, bustleback luxury became a Detroit trend. It was the 1930s all over again. The first and second generation Sevilles may not have restored Cadillac fully to the standard of the world, but they proved one thing beyond doubt. Cadillac was still willing to stand out.
But we're not here to just talk about the Cadillac Seville. We're here to talk about the Cadillac Seville by Gucci. So how did that come about? Well, again, you have to place yourself in the time period. In the early 70s, American car companies had started making limited edition models trimmed by famous fashion designers. American Motors was one of the first to do it with the 1972 AMC Gucci Sportabout. Gucci was founded in Florence in 1921 by Guccio Gucci, who had been inspired by seeing elite guests at the Savoy Hotel in London during his time working there. By the early 70s, the Italian fashion house was becoming more and more known overseas for its designer handbags and other finely crafted leather goods. American Motors took notice, and they wanted to see if a fashion designer edition of their car could attract more female buyers. So came about the Gucci Sportabout for 72 and 73. Then Lincoln came out with the designer series in late 1975, which were 4 versions of the Continental Mark IV trimmed by Givenchy, Pucci, Bill Blass, and Cartier. Every year, these designers would outfit the Lincoln Continental in a new color combination and their own unique trim, which would add to their exclusivity. In 1978, a Cadillac dealer in Miami named Norman Brauman decided to capitalize on the trend, and he reached out to Gucci to see if they'd be interested in making a limited edition model. The only thing was, this wouldn't be a factory option. After all, Brauman Cadillac was a dealership, not GM themselves. But Brauman got GM to work out a licensing agreement with Gucci, allowing him to make the cars a reality. Right next to the dealership, Brauman opened a facility called International Automotive Design Incorporated, or IAD for short, where Aldo Gucci's designs could be installed on the cars. This included the vinyl roof, the upholstery, the wheel covers, the headlight bezels, the stripes, the emblems, and anything else that the customer might have wanted. After all was said and done, the standard Gucci package added thousands to the base price of the standard Seville. And that's thousands in 1980, not thousands today. Production numbers seem to vary, but it's estimated that only 200 or so first-generation Sevilles were given the Gucci treatment, and maybe even fewer for the second generation. Customers weren't limited to the Seville either. They could order a Fleetwood Brougham limousine by Gucci if they wanted to. But of all the Gucci Cadillacs, the bustleback Seville just might be the most memorable of them all. Something that could be given away as a prize.
Which brings us to what makes this Gucci Seville not just any Gucci Seville. If you were sitting at home in the fall of 1984, then you may have seen this exact same car shown as a prize on Wheel of Fortune. The show's format today is still largely the same as it was back then, but one thing that's different is how the prizes are given out. Today, the big prize isn't revealed until after the finalist has made their guess in the bonus round or has run out of time. If they guess the phrase or thing right, the reveal of that prize can make their whole day or their whole year. If they guess it wrong or they run out of time, the reveal of that prize will make their loss feel that much worse. Either way, it raises the stakes and adds a whole lot more suspense and excitement to the game. But in 1984, things weren't like that. Contestants got an open view of all the available prizes to play for at the beginning of the game, and they got to pick whichever one they wanted. And there was always this ceramic Dalmatian that never seemed to get picked. I guess people wanted the real thing, not a fake. Anyway, on October 19th, 1984, a new 84 Cadillac Seville by Gucci in cotillion white appeared on the show. The car got a special feature during the episode that advertised its rich gold adornments, its luxurious gold key, and its nearly $42,000 price tag, equivalent to $130,000 today. A contestant named Rhea from Kirkwood, Missouri, played for it but didn't win.
Oh, brother, I'll tell you, you were so close because you kept saying of honor.
Medal.
Yeah, that's what we need.
But that wouldn't be the last that viewers would see of the car. It came back for the November 29th, 1984 episode, and Karen Steinberg, a limousine chauffeur, interestingly enough, from Spring Valley, California, would play for it. During the bonus round, in the nick of time, Karen made the correct guess of I Love Lucy and won the car.
I love Lucy.
That's it!
Joy was through the roof, and she would go on to keep the car for many years. Now, we haven't been able to confirm this, but it's said that when Karen took delivery of the car in Southern California, it already had a few thousand miles on the odometer. Whether or not it had belonged to the Gucci family or even Aldo Gucci himself is something we may never be able to find documentation on, but it sure does make you wonder. By 2008, the car was put up on eBay, and a Gucci Cadillac connoisseur named John Darpa flew out from Brooklyn to California to buy the car and add it to his growing collection. When I first spoke to John on the phone, he told me that every time a Gucci Cadillac comes up for sale, he buys it. And considering that he doesn't own hundreds, it's probably because there simply aren't that many left. He restores every one he buys, and today, this car is immaculate. A Gucci Cadillac may not be everyone's style, but I have to say, it is a perfect fit for our exhibit called Totally Awesome Cars and Culture of the 80s and 90s. And you can come see it in person until April 2026. You'll also be able to find the miniature version right next to it because in 2021, Mattel teamed up with Gucci to create a limited edition Hot Wheels version. So maybe the Seville did become a small car after all.
So of course the car's most distinctive design feature is this bustleback trunk, this weird kind of angled trunk that almost looks like somebody has taken a cleaver to a normal sedan and kind of chopped off part of the rear end. And this was inspired by, as we said, coach-built luxury cars built in the 1930s and then briefly in the late 1940s. This shape was sort of a, almost like a vestigial remnant of a time when cars had actual trunks. And this was sort of a transitional period between the time when there were cars with big wooden framed bodies with trunks on the back and then the more traditional 3-box design that we all know sedans have today. Ironically, it was actually Cadillac that popularized the 3-box design with a standard trunk with their 1938 series of cars, which had a very, for the time, futuristic body. This was really controversial. I remember people looking at the car in profile and being like, what is going on here? Some people thought it was hideously ugly. Other people thought it was kind of cool and cutting edge. I mean, it sort of has this angular quality that is a little bit like the wedge design cars from the mid-20th century. But really, it's just kind of weird. It gives the car these odd proportions because it has this long nose and then this truncated rear end. And it was very controversial at the time. I think a few people loved it, a few people that were still nostalgic for the 1930s, and a lot of people just thought it was awkward. But again, Cadillac ended up selling a lot of these cars. It wasn't influential when it comes to future models of Cadillac or other luxury cars, but it was influential in the moment. And we saw it on a lot of other luxury American cars from the early 1980s. So what do you guys think of the bustleback Seville by Gucci? Is it a fashion yes or a heck no, I don't want this thing in my closet? I'm testing out new catchphrases for my fash vlog.
It's definitely a period piece of its time.
That's for sure, yeah. I mean, I think now that we're 40 years on, there's a certain kind of retro coolness to it, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I have to say, it grew on me, but it did really grow on me eventually. I mean, I really like everything that it's about and all of the little details and all the stitching and everything. It's just something you don't see every day.
No, it's an attention getter, and it's very much a product of its era. You know, I don't think we'll ever see anything like it again. It really is quite charming, and like Shervin said, as we've lived with it over the past almost year, it's really kind of grown on everybody, and is kind of a highlight of this exhibit, even though it's very different from everything else here in Totally Awesome.
I'll give you a word to add to your lexicon, or a phrase, as the kids say, it ate and left no crumbs. So that's it. There you go.
I mean,
it's laid.
Yes, that says it all.
The slaying Seville.
Yes.